Welcome back and thank you guys for tuning in for today's video. Today I'm gonna dive in a little more into sequences and try to create variation with the songs that you're building. I know this is something that happens to us, it happens to me, where we're working in standalone mode with a sampler or any actual standalone machine. And usually we're working with loops, which is sequences, versus something like a DAW. We are actually in a linear timeline, adding our intro, our verse, and that's a little different from this. So right now I'm gonna dive into this track that I started working on the other day and try to build some variations, some separate sequences so we can start making it come together like a song. But before we jump into it, if you guys find value in this video, do not forget to give it a thumbs up, for it's a very big support for the video. And also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel for more content like this. So let's jump right into it. So we're right here in the MPC One, and just keep in mind, this is gonna work with any other MPC. The main focus of this video is just building sequences and having variations so we could not just have one loop, but something that sounds a little more put together, more of a song. So I'm gonna show you guys what I had built the other day. This is just a loop. This is actually an A-bar loop, and it sounded very good to me, so I want to continue this beat. So far, all I have is just two sequences. I have an intro, and then I have the drop or the verse. That's all I have at the moment. I'll let you guys hear what I have so far. So what I want to do is I want to show you guys how I'm able to get an okay sounding sequence, or how can I kind of give it a little more punch, a little more kick. As you guys heard the drums, those things are smacking. They're just pretty much, they're almost distorting, but it's a good distortion. It's not a nasty distortion. So you guys already know I love sampling live drums. Something about live drums that just feel very good. Well, let's start off with the drums. This is the original drums with no effects. This is the way I sampled them, and you know, they sound okay, but nothing too spontaneous or you know, nothing that stands out too much. So they sound okay, but after I did all my editing or my plugins that I've added, then now they sound like this. And I'm gonna go through real quick what I have on the drums. And one thing I do have to mention is I have these plugins engaged on the program, not on individual pads. This is plugins that I'm putting on the program. I'm gonna just go through real quick. I'm gonna turn these off. I have the lo-fi plugin. This thing is awesome, man. This is just a good way to crush up your drums and make them sound a little more grittier. And this way I have them as the bit depth, I have them at 21 bit, or I'm sorry, at 12.1 bit, sample rate at 45, and it's mixed at 100%. The clip, you guys can play around with this clip, and this is actually a good way to, like I said, distort your drums a bit in a very pleasing way. So that's with this lo-fi plugin. I'm gonna turn it off. With. So I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it adds a little bit of distortion to the drums. And then after that, I followed it with this EQ. This EQ is awesome. Don't sleep on this EQ. It works really good. This section right here is your frequencies. This is your Q, and this is your gain for that frequency. Right now, without this EQ, this is how they sound. They sound okay, but a little muffled. I wanted them to stick out a little more, have a little more grit, more in your face type of sound. So I go to 10,000, I went to 10,000 kilohertz and I boosted that about 4 dB. And then I go to 3,000 kilohertz and I boost that about 2 dB. Now don't get too mixed up on these numbers. I'm just kind of going, if it feels right to me with the sample, I'm gonna go ahead and engage that. So we're gonna hear it without it and then with it. Again, subtle changes. We're not trying to make a drastic change because we're going to mix this after in Ableton. So we're not trying to mix 100% here. We're just trying to add a feel to the track. And then lastly, I have this compressor. This compressor, again, is an amazing compressor. This is my favorite compressor in the MPC One. It just makes the drum smack like, it makes it feel good. So we're gonna hear it without it, and then I'm gonna play it with. Now this compressor just makes these drums pump. And as you guys can see, I have my threshold low. I have my ratios at a 4:1, my output at about 15 dB. My mix is at a 43 dB, the mix. So it's kind of like a parallel compression. I don't want to have the mix fully at 100% because if I do, it's going to sound horrible. It's a little too much. I'll show you guys how that would sound. I mean, it still don't sound bad, but at about 32 sounds pretty good to me. And your attack and your release, if you guys have your attack all the way at, if your attack is too soon, it's just gonna kill your whole drums. There's not gonna be no kick. There's not gonna be no smack. I think where the smack comes in is when you let the initial transients of your audio waves cut through before the signal gets compressed. So I don't like a quick attack when I'm compressing these drums to get them sounding like that. I like to go for a slow attack. The reason why is because if you go for a slow attack, the kick and the snare is going to hit first without being compressed, and then a few milliseconds after, then is going to compress the decay sound of that audio wave. Hopefully it's making sense, but don't get too mixed up on what I just said. Just listen to your audio and see what feels better to you. See, there's no punch, there's no smack, but if I lower down this attack, you're gonna see that the kick and the snare are cutting through a little bit more. All right, hopefully you guys can hear that through the speakers. They're minor changes, but they are there and they make a big difference at the end. After that, that's pretty much it. So this is without any plugins. And then this is with. That right there is gritty, and I love that sound. That's just to kind of get it a little more in your face. Now, real quick, I'm going to touch up on this is the drums. These are live drums. Let's hear the live drums. This is with a crash, snare, and then this is no crash. This is why I like live drum breaks, because they have life here. I mean, I can recreate this with finger drumming, but I just feel like it sounds weak. Live drums have so much balls in them. It sounds so good. So you have a tom roll, and then you have a crash with a kick. And then up here, there's just a kick and a snare with no crash. So what I'm doing to make this vary, so it's not just the looping like this. So it's just 2 bars, and I don't want the 2 bars to be looping and it just gets too monotonous and it's like, oh, here comes the crash again. No, let's save the crash for a specific moment. I want this crash to be a buildup and not give it away too easy or too soon. So what I'm doing is, on the first bar is with the crash. Second bar, boom. And then it goes back to the third bar, which was gonna be again the crash. But I don't wanna give that crash away just yet. I wanna save that for a specific moment and have a drop right there. So what I'm doing, instead of going back to the first pad, I'm going back to this pad, which there was just the kick with no crash. So the way I'm kind of doing it is, I will start off with this right here. I didn't start off with 8 bars. I started off with just this loop. It's a 2-bar loop. This is what I started with. And that's it. It's repeating and it gets boring. It's like, oh, all right, cool. I'm kind of tired of it after hearing it like 3 or 4 times. So what I do after I have these 2 bars loops, I will duplicate this the loop, and I made it into 8 bars. And now the way I'm working is I'm going section by section. So the way I'm going section by section is I'm on the Q link, on the 4th Q link. And with these 2 knobs, this is my loop selector. So now I can select, I'm going to select the 3rd bar and the 4th bar. So I can focus on that. I already have my first 2 bars. Now I want to focus on the next 2 bars, which they're right here. And if I have to get in here and fix some of these up, like I don't want this, I didn't want this to loop and to be, where were we? Yeah, it was going to be originally right here. You see, it's the crash. It's the same thing over and over. No, so the way we can have fun with this loop section is work with small little sections, small little loops. And on this loop, maybe on the 3rd bar, I can just transpose this note and go up and go into pad 5, because pad 5, it doesn't have that crash. So it's not just crash, crash, crash. It gets very boring. So it doesn't have a crash right here. And now, as you guys hear the toms, this is a very important part, because it's like the toms is like, it's ready to give you something. So you don't want to just do toms and there's nothing there. So maybe right here where there's toms, as you guys can hear, like nothing's happening right here. Watch. Maybe right there where the toms are kind of coming at you, we can go now to our sample track where we have our chops, and we can do something right there to, give some emphasis on this build up. So let's see what we can do right there. Just right here. So what I did is I cut off the sample. I added a muted sample or a note right there with nothing, and it just cuts it off so it can have like a little pause where it's just the tom speaking. Boom. There you go. So it kind of like leaves a little gap, and the toms take the show right there. Now, that's the 3rd and the 4th bar. Now what I would do if I feel cool with that, I move over to the 5th and the 6th bar. So the way we do that, make sure that that's selected over here, and this bottom one, this will select your loop, the end of the loop, and this one will select the beginning of the loop. Now right here on the 5th bar, I do have the crash with my drums. Hopefully this is making sense. I hope you guys are picking some up from this. It might sound confusing, but the main thing here is I'm working with small sections, and I love that the MPC workflow allows you to work with small sections and focus on little pieces, so you could build a song and make it have drops and build-ups, and you can perform that and focus on little sections. Maybe right here on the 5th bar where the crash comes in, I want to take off the sample. I don't want no sample. I want it to be muted for just 1 beat right there. So what I will do is I'm back on my chops. I will take this chop off. I will delete it. I will just select it, hit shift, cut. And now there's nothing right there, but I'm sure the remaining sound or the tail of this pad right here is going to come over. I don't want that. I want it to be muted. So as you guys can see, there's nothing on these pads. Oh, like there's nothing on this pad. So what I'll do is I'm going to put this pad, since there's nothing there, I'm going to put that right here on the first, on the downbeat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just zoom in, get the pencil tool, put that empty pad right there, get back out. Now it should cut off. I hope it does. Let's hear it. Woo, yes. Okay, so I'm going to go from the ending of bar 4, and I'm going to drop in to bar 5 so we can hear that little break that we just did. There you go. Cool. So as you guys can see, I'm continuing the track. Maybe on track 7, on the loop 7, I'm gonna add something pretty different right there. I can do no repeat, put it on 16th on no repeat, and I'm gonna just rehearse this. Okay, cool. So on bar 7, I'm gonna just do some note repeats on pads 1 and 4. Just kind of play with it so we can switch it up a bit, have a little bit of variation so it's not the same thing looping over and over. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna hit overdub and play start. There you go. Now, obviously, just that bar alone, it gets very boring because it's just looping. But again, this is an 8-bar loop. And if we hear now this whole entire 8 bars, there's few little changes, very subtle subliminal changes that nobody's really going to point out, but it's just changing up the routine. It's changing up your sequence. So again, it's not just the same 4-bar loops, and it gets very boring and repetitive after a while. So let's hear what we have so far. Yeah. Cool. So as you guys can see, there's some variation there. It's not the same thing in every bar. There's some different going on. So that's pretty much it right there, guys. As you guys can kind of get the main idea of the video, kind of building on a 4-bar loop or 2 bars or 4-bar, whatever makes it easier for you to lay down your idea. Use it as scratch paper. Once you have the vision and you're like, wow, I really like how this is coming along, then you can start to copy and paste it and create like an 8-bar loop or whatever you guys want, and start working with little small bars, sections, how I'm using this loop method right here that I showed you guys on the grid. And when you guys are working like that, if you guys want, you guys can start dropping stuff out, putting stuff in, and just building the track and tailoring it the way you want it to. So it's not just a repetitive loop. So I hope you guys got some value out of this video. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up if you guys did, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you guys once again. Make sure you guys check out the other videos that touch up on some of these topics, and you guys have a great week. I'll catch y'all on our next video. Peace.